I mean, if you look at the Solomonic picture, for example, you look at the angels against the wall. There's a palm tree, and then there's the living creatures. And you notice they have two faces.
And are these woven into?
They're actually carved.
They're carved.
They're carved in the olive wood, and then that was covered with gold. So these are all carvings. The palm trees, and you'll notice that I mentioned that the lampstand out here was an olive tree because it has olive oil in it. It's a pomegranate tree also because it has pomegranates on it. It's also the menorah. This menorah is also an almond tree because these are almond blossoms. Aaron's rod was an almond, right? But then you'll notice that behind the menorah in the holy place, there's a palm tree. So it's also a palm tree. And of course, if you're talking to Abraham, it's an oak tree or a tamarisk tree. I mean, so the idea that it's a tree. A tree becomes a symbol of the menorah, right? Just like Moses in the burning bush. So this becomes the burning bush. So the idea is that, again, the Bible uses multiple symbols to explain the same thing. But when you notice the angels on the walls, they have two faces. They're Janus figured. And the idea of the Janus figure is that one side faces the past, looks to the past. The other side is looking to the future. That's the idea of the Janus figure. And so you remember in Ezekiel, the living creatures, they actually have four faces.
Yeah, that's what I was just about.
And so the idea is that they're looking in all directions, at all time, all at the same time. And then you see the wheels of the throne chariot has eyes, and the wings have eyes. In other words, they're looking in every direction. They're looking all over. They're trying to take in all of reality that they can take in because they're seeing. Now, eyes are also a source. If you go to Zechariah, so the eye was described as a source. The ancients were very wise to this idea. So an eye is a source where water would come from. And you know that when you start crying, water comes out of your eye. Well, so the eye was not only a source of light that could see, but it was also a source for water. So a spring, there's 7 eyes, and there's seven sources of water here. And the idea is, again, that it's a source where life is coming out and flowing out of. So remember, Jesus said the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eye is full of darkness, then your whole body will be full of darkness. So, the ancients saw the light in someone's eye, and they saw the eye is the lamp. And when you see something, then you gain insight, you gain light, wisdom, understanding. So, do you understand what I'm saying? Usually means, or they'll say, do you see what I'm saying? That means, do you know, you understand? So, the idea here again is that these living creatures are living creatures, and one is facing the past, and one is looking to the future. And that's why, because you're in the holy place. And the holy place is the process of the salvation. It's looking to the past, to the cross. It's also looking forward to the throne. And that's why you're in the holy place. You're in the midst of something.
Yeah.
Sounds like the is, was, and is to come.
Yes, that's right. And by the way, all those word pictures come from these actual pictures.
Yeah. And it also could be a symbol of us in our journey.
That's what I was thinking.
Yeah.
We're looking to our past, realizing what we are, what we have done, but we're also looking to the future and to the hope of what God is doing in us.
That's right. That's right. Because our past can dictate our future if we don't look at it and then choose whether we want it to stay that way.
Yes.
Right. So I can have something happen to me before my life that damaged my thinking or altered my thinking. But then God says, well, do you want that incident to choose to define who you are, or do you want to be free and be a new creation and make choices in the future that are set free from those choices of the past? That's part of being born again, right?
Right, exactly. So do you want that event to form your character and who you are, or do you want
That's right.
to grow and to grow into a better character?
That's right. And the truth is that I cannot overcome the issue of the past unless I face it. If I run from it, then it's still controlling me.
Oh, you're in
Jacob.
denial.
Well, right. So the point here is that if I, for example, I say, well, my dad's like this, I'm never going to be like my dad. Well, then, excuse me, the way my dad is controlling me. Because if I'm saying I'm not going to be that way, of course you know that I'm lying to myself. Because if I'm saying I'm not going to be that way, then what I'm actually acknowledging is that I am that way. And I'm going to try to repress what's in me so that I don't behave the way he did. But the fact that I have to repress it proves that I am. So it's only when I face the fact that I am this way, and then I give that to God, right, and let the old man die to self, then I can become a new creation that's free from the bondage of being who I was, the old person. But if I don't face that old person and acknowledge that I am that way, confess my sin, and faithful and just to forgive my sin, and cleanse me from unrighteousness, it's only when I acknowledge that, and then because it's true, and then I accept what Christ's life, death, and resurrection for that, and I say, I want to be a new creation in God, then I can become a new creation. So, again, the ancients were wise. Like, the ancients, they didn't, we talk about looking into the future, but the ancients would never talk that way. The people in the Bible didn't look into the future. No, they looked into the past. If you want to understand the future, you have to understand the past, because the future is, what has been is what is, and what is what's going to be. There's nothing new under the sun. So the ancients were wise. When they wanted to know what the future was like, they looked to the past, because history is going to be repeated. And so, see, we think we're so wise that we say, oh, we want to look to the future. We forget the past. We want to look to the future. Well, if you forget the past, then I'll tell you what your future's going to be. It's going to be the past. It's going to be what happened in the past. You're going to make the same. Oh yeah, we have a different toy. We have a cell phone now instead of, who cares? That has nothing to do with what God is talking about.
Science is going to
That's
fix
why
us.
God,
Yeah.
that's why Satan tries so hard to keep us in denial of problems, because God can't heal us as long as we're in denial of the problem.
Right, because it still controls us.
Yep.
And it's the truth that sets us free. So remember the story like the woman at the well. You know, Jesus is enticing her about the water. But Jesus is Jesus is always on a different level in his thinking, and he's using the practical things of life to try to get people to think about deeper, higher things. Mm-hmm. So she's out there to get water, but he wants to give her living water. So he uses his thirst as an expression to draw her attention and get her into a discussion. But he's thinking about something much different. And then she says, well, I'm interested in this living water. And what's the first thing he says after that? Well, go call your husband. Why is he bringing that up?
He needs her to face the truth.
Because if she doesn't face who she is and her past, then he can't set her free from it, so she can be free to have eternal life and live in the future. As long as she's a slave to this idea that she has to chase some guy around, have a husband to have her life as full, then she's never going to be free enough to realize that she doesn't need a husband. All she needs is God. And then she can have the living water. And by the way, once she has God, then she'll be able to actually find a husband that could be a true husband. And because she's not locked into it, she's not going to settle for some jerk that's going to be mean to her again. She can actually find someone that could be a real husband. And of course, because Christ is a real husband. And then from that stable relationship, then she'll form other stable relationships, and she'll be free from the bondage that she was in. So that's why Jesus refers her back to, well, call your husband. And then she says, oh, I don't have a husband. And Jesus doesn't say, you liar. He doesn't nail her. He says, oh, what you said's true. So he affirms what she said, even though what she said wasn't really true. But it's a partial truth. So Jesus affirms what he can affirm, and then he challenges her about what she's not telling him. And he lets her know, I know your heart. God knows your heart. And God wants to set you free. But he can't set you free if you're in denial of what's in you. Isn't that beautiful? So, yeah, so you see how you can take one of these little symbols of the sanctuary, and you quickly can get into the gospel, how God wants you to see him, and how we should be seeing ourselves, and how God sees us. And yeah, it's just, so the sanctuary is just beautiful. It's just so full of beautiful truth. And so you'll see all over in the Solomonic temple, you'll see the cherubims on the wall. You see there's cherubim caved into the olive wood doors, into the most holy place above the stairs here. There's cherubim that are carved into that. Those are olive wood doors. In Revelation 4:1, for example, he says, I saw a door open in heaven. Well, then where's the door? Well, in the sanctuary there's a veil, so like it can't be. Well, in Solomonic temple it's a door. So whether he's going through a veil or going through a door, it's the same thing, same idea. And by the way, the veils in the Mosaic temple were richly embroidered with cherubim, living creatures, and with beautiful colors. And so, yeah, inside the sanctuary, everything was gold in here. And then, of course, when you lit the light, then the gold reflected the light. So there was all kinds of light, and as well as, of course, God was the source of light in the most holy place.
So I have a question. In the Mosaic temple and Moses' temple, the curtains didn't go all the way to the outside, from the holy to the most holy. The curtains didn't go all the way out to the outside wall.
Well, my understanding is
curtain.
they don't go all the way to the top. So the idea of not going all the way to the wall, I'm not sure about that. I don't think.
Right.
The idea that actually the veil was mainly in two parts. So there was the veil, the same thing with the outer veil here in the Mosaic temple. The outer veil out here, there was one panel that went this way, and then there was another panel that went the other way, and they crossed. So when you went in, you actually go in, and then you walk this way, and then you go in.
Mm-hmm.
So it wasn't like we think of just one sheet across. It was actually like this.
In one sense, they did.
Yeah. So the idea was that when the high priest went in, he would go in, he would go to the veil, then he would go, and then he would go in. So
the impression that I got was from the traveling temple that came around to camp meeting here a few years ago. And I remember them specifically saying that the curtain didn't go all, so if this is the holy place and this is the most holy place, it didn't go all the way to the outside walls. And I just, it's kind of stuck in my head that the light could shine around the curtain on in the Mosaic temple.
Yeah,
and I was noticing in the Solomonic temple, it looks like the walls go all the way, the parting wall went all the way to the outside wall.
yeah, yes, and that's the way it was. But you'll notice the Solomonic temple. See what it doesn't go all the way to the top. Same with the Mosaic temple.
So that's where the light could come through.
Well, they actually, so remember, you're dealing with trees. Remember in the Garden of Eden, the tree. So the Shekinah would move up and down. Actually, the Shekinah would actually move in and out too. But the Shekinah would move up and down on the mercy seat. Mm-hmm. Right. So the idea is that when the Shekinah moved up, the light would shine over the veil and would give light. So the point is, again, you're dealing with a living idea, but I'd never heard nor seen anything that would give me the idea it doesn't go to the wall. But I don't really see whatever. It doesn't, not a big thing. The point is the veil actually represents the veil of our mind that doesn't perceive God, that needs to be taken away. Because when the Day of Atonement occurred that I was talking about yesterday. Once the high priest does the atonement in the I keep pulling up the wrong one. In the sanctuary, in the most holy place, once he does that, he moves out. Those doors are open and they stay open. Once he goes out, there's no reason to close the door. He's out here, so that everything's open. By the time he gets to the outside up here, everything is opened. So when he says heaven was open and I saw heaven was open, so because God actually what he's doing and what God is doing is he's removing these veils. And in Isaiah 28, the veil is actually death. And it's the fear of death that blinds our eyes to see. Mm-hmm. And so when God removes the veil, he's actually removing the veil of death. And when you get to heaven, there's no veils. That's why he says there's no temple, because there's nothing veiling God. There's a full revelation of him. That's why I'm telling you that Ezekiel's temple is actually a throne. And then everybody has access to the throne of God. Just like in Revelation, everybody has access to the water of life and the tree of life because they have access to God. And there's no veils hiding. God is not hiding anything. And there's no reason, the only reason that he put veils there was for our benefit because we couldn't see. Like, remember when Moses came down from the mountain, his face was glowing, and he had to put a veil on his face because people are running away from him in fear because his face is glowing. Well, when that fear is gone, there's no reason for the veil's gone. And then with the veil, if you take away the veils of the sanctuary, if you take away the outer veil, and then you take away the tent and all the veils, what do you have? Well, you have the glory of God, and you have living people coming to worship, and there's no veils, and that's what New Jerusalem is. Is this making sense, Jean?
I think so.
Okay.
I think so.
And so if you want to read about this temple, it's in 1 Kings. He talks about
That's a fun story.
yeah.